You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today. But before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us on August 11th at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for a celebration of hope featuring guest speaker Tim Tebow and musical artist Ben Fuller. Find out more and get your tickets at HIA10.com. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's beef farmers and ranchers, we want to remind you that beef can be part of a heart-healthy diet. To find heart-healthy beef recipes, go to oklabeef.org/recipes. Linked below. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode down at my real estate office today. We're at Keller Williams Realty Elite off Classen, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our guest, Dr. Kari Lopez.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming down. Thank you for taking some time out of your Sunday morning to come record with us today.
Awesome to be here.
So we've just been talking. You're coming up on 30 years of the family business, LOREC Furniture, which a lot of people, if you're on social media, would have seen, especially if you're in like the Western cowboy kind of culture, because your chairs are fantastic.
Thank you.
Very jealous. But there's a lot more that goes into it than just chairs. And obviously 30 years, I'm sure there's plenty of stories over the years that you have to tell. But first of all, I mean, let's start a little bit, general kind of how the podcast works is, we just timeline everything you do and how you get to where you are. So, were you born and raised in the state?
I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
From Milwaukee, I went to high school in Chicago, all-girls Catholic school in Chicago, and then I went on to Marquette University in Milwaukee, where I studied pre-med. And that took me to Madrid, Spain, my senior year. I wanted to practice medicine in a Hispanic country, and so I went to Spain and traveled Europe for a year as I studied my senior year of college. And then from Spain, I moved to Guadalajara, Mexico. And so that's where I went to medical school, and then did a year of residency in Chicago, and then went back to Mexico and planned on living there my entire life. But unfortunately, in 1992, the peso devaluated, so that took me to Oklahoma. It was actually NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which, brought a lot of business through I-35 and connected Canada to Mexico through the United States. So we started a business and landed in Alva. And I was a college professor at Northwestern Oklahoma State.
Okay. And
actually started teaching medical personnel classes, and then ended up in the Spanish department because of my fluency in the language. And I think my background of being from the Midwest to traveling European lifestyles for, a year and then moving to Mexico actually has a lot of cultural background in LOREC Ranch Home Furnishings. I think we bring a lot of trends from the beautiful buttery soft leathers from Italy to the Hacienda doors that we make into dining room tables, end tables, coffee tables. And of course, then all the cowhides came from Oklahoma. So the Old West, our love for the American cowboy has really taken a trend in our venue of home furnishings.
Yeah, so much to unpack. As a little girl growing up, do you want to be a doctor?
Absolutely.
Okay, why?
Yes. Just the love of medicine. I loved helping people. I was the one that was kind of the lifeguard out there. We had a family home on a lake and was the lifeguard watching people. If anybody got injured, it was me. Go help. I'll do it. Yeah. So it just my love of medicine.
Okay, big family growing up?
Yes, one of 6 children. Okay. And of course, lots of the siblings live up in Wisconsin. And my sister Mary lives here in Oklahoma, and she's my vice president.
Okay.
Yes.
That was one of Luis was like, ask about my Aunt Mary. So we'll get to that a little bit later in the business. So growing up kind of in the north, did you just hate the cold and think Madrid sounds great for a senior year? Like, let's go there.
You know what? I really didn't know the difference in kind of temperatures. My grandparents actually were called snowbirds. They had a home in Florida, in Naples, Florida. And so we would go there once a year, and that was our family vacation. But of course, I love that climate and everything. But growing up in the Midwest, you learn to adapt. You don't know anything different. We walked, to school. We wore snow boots and we snowmobiled and we skied, ice fishing, all of it. We did it all. And so, but when I actually traveled to Mexico I believe it was a freshman in high school, my first time to travel to Mexico, I love the culture. I love the weather. I went to Mexico City with my class, and it was amazing. And so I think that just passion for learning Spanish, and my parents actually brought that to us because they would travel every year, sometimes twice a year to Mexico. My dad was an independent insurance agent, and so he, won trips, and that was their place of choice. And they would come back, sun-kissed with the beautiful suntans and, saying little phrases in Spanish and telling us about the culture. I loved it. Fell in love with it.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said about the European and kind of South American way of life.
Absolutely.
Right? Like the whole siesta and just not working 80-hour weeks. And
you got it.
Having 8 weeks off a year of vacation and all the rest of it. So, I haven't been to South America yet, but growing up in Europe, we weren't short of days off, and my parents were always kind of, we didn't take many family vacations, but they definitely had time off to do, fun stuff around.
Right. It's the love of family. It's you enjoy that family time, and you believe, in those family experiences, and that's a really cultural experience.
Yeah. So from that point, then you thought, I'm going to be a doctor, and I want to go and I need to learn Spanish and be in a Spanish-speaking country.
Right.
Okay. And that was the dream, and you worked everything towards the end.
Yes. And unfortunately, 1992 just really took a twist, and so we moved from Guadalajara to Oklahoma, and that I love it. I lived Alva, rural Oklahoma, for 12 years, and then in 2004 moved to Edmond, and the Oklahoma City experience with our store down there on Reno Avenue has been phenomenal.
What did you think about moving to Alva, Oklahoma, after being in Guadalajara, Mexico, and everything that you've wanted in life is probably where you're at the moment, and then this happens in 92, and you think, I'm going to move. Like, a lot of people listening would probably think that's kind of like a prison sentence. Right?
I embraced it totally.
Sure.
I had a passion for teaching the Spanish language and the culture, and I wanted to bring that to the student population there. It was wonderful because I received so much knowledge from them. I didn't really know about the cowboy, the American cowboy. A lot of my students were rodeo on the rodeo team at Northwestern. A lot of them, of course, were ranchers and farmers in the area. But then, of course, we had a pretty big population of students that came from all over the country to play sports. And so we had kids from Mississippi, from Florida, from California, from the East Coast, to play sports that they got scholarships for. So I embraced them all. And my passion for sports, especially American football and basketball, was amazing because those students learned the language of Spanish through those sports. I would teach them, the numbers of players and the positions and this and that. So it was fun. But no, I loved it. It was a great place to raise children as well.
Yeah. To which you have 4 kids?
Yes, 4 children.
Okay. Were they all around that time that you were in Alva?
Well, 1991, my first daughter was born, and she was born in Guadalajara. And then we moved in 1992 and landed in Alva in 93. And then my son Luis was born in 94, Antonio was born in 97, and then Daniela in 2000.
Okay.
So, so they know urban life, but they also know rural life.
Yeah. Which there's a lot to be said about that too. Like if I could have my way and my wife didn't want to be, close to where she works within 20 minutes, I would be in the countryside, on some acres. I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. I need to drag her away from her office. The other thing about Alva is we've had a few guests on the podcast from Alva. Tom McDaniel's been on the podcast.
Wonderful.
And then
he was the president there when I was teaching.
Okay, great.
Yes,
so that's kind of, you have a very big connection with
Absolutely.
Tom. Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. And then, do you know the Holder family?
Yes.
So Andrew Holder is a really good friend of mine.
Oh, wonderful.
So he actually started, we were both real estate agents in this office.
Okay.
He's doing something else
I think their family owns Holder Drug in Alva. Okay, yes, know them well.
Yeah, so small world.
Yes.
Both have been on the podcast.
Oh, wonderful.
Shout out if they're listening. Probably not, but if they are, hello.
Yes.
Alva's, and they were in my conference as well for school. Northwest Oklahoma State was in our conference.
Okay.
So we traveled up to watch basketball games. And it's, like I said, there's a lot of cool things going on up there and a lot of small town feel, but for the good.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's, that's where I learned the cowboy way. It's the look of the eye. It's the shake of the hand. It's the the experience when they come into LOREC Ranch and purchase, you just feel it.
Yeah. So you taught then for quite a while.
Yes, 12 years.
12 years up in Alva.
Yes.
And you just think, I want to do this season of my life is done. I want to do something else now.
Right. I knew that there was going to be a change in my life when the children were starting to get a little bit older. I wanted them to be able to be in sports teams that were a little bit more fast-paced and higher education. And I wanted them to go to Catholic schools. So I knew that in 2004 we were going to make the move to come to Edmond. And so, of course, the rural life there was fantastic, but I knew that it was a nice place to live for that time period, but I knew that there was going to be a change, and I knew that I wanted to take over the business as well.
So there was already a business then?
Yes, we started in Alva in 1993. Yes, and we actually started. Eduardo, my ex-husband, he is a very much of a visionary, and so when we moved to Alva, he started, making friends with the local people there, and he befriended Sheriff Jones. And the sheriff loved any type of antique furnishings, and especially spurs and saddles, bits. And so Eduardo would find those things for him. And then it just became kind of like a business. We would find old doors and old pedal cars, and then he restored a lot of those furnishings as well. And that's just how LOREC Ranch began in Alva. And then in 1997, we launched our store off of I-35 in Oklahoma City, across from Frontier City.
Yeah.
And then in 2008 to our current location on Reno.
And right now you have 3 stores?
Yes, one in Pawhuska. We are right next door to Ree Drummond, the Pioneer Woman, and then in Amarillo, Texas.
Okay, so coming to Oklahoma City, then you're making the move. There's a change in life. You think I've done as much as I think I want to do teaching, and it's time to move to Oklahoma City, and also you're bringing the kids with you. And I assume there's a bigger population of Catholics in Oklahoma City than there were in Alva as well, so that's a huge plus.
Correct.
And you decide to become part of, get into the business. Had you had kind of entrepreneurial tendencies up until that point?
I did. As a young girl, I started a little company called Éxito.
Okay.
which means success, with my sister. And we sold Mexican jewelry and Mexican clothing. And so I have always had that in me, this entrepreneurial spirit. I think it comes from my father, and the teaching side comes from my mother. My dad being an independent insurance agent, it's just one of those things that I think you kind of are born with. And I didn't know I had it. I didn't know I had the design in me either. I love clothing. I love, I love traveling, and I think all of that together brought me to where I became the person I am today at LOREC Ranch.
Yeah, it's traveling broadens the mind. Everybody should travel. It's one of the things that when people finish university back home, they generally take a gap year and go travel, and no one does that here.
Oh, you're right.
Or very little people do
You're
that
absolutely
here.
right.
And it's so much value in, you can always start with, what's 1 year? You
Right.
know? If you can figure out how to pay for it, backpack it, you're a student, you don't mind sleeping in, a hostel, whatever it is. And generally, other countries, other than the flight, it's cheap.
I agree.
You know?
I agree. I think you learn so much about yourself when you do that traveling, and in places that you've never been to, languages that you experience, new cultures, new foods, architecture, all of that. I think it's so much a part of who you become.
Yeah. So at this point in life, then you're a mother, you've got a few kids, you decide it's 97, right? You moved to Oklahoma City.
Correct.
And just
97. Sorry, 97. We started the store in Oklahoma City, but it wasn't until 2004 that I actually moved with the kids.
Got you. So you have all 4 kids at
Yes.
this point, and
Yes.
you moved to Oklahoma City. What's just the plan at that point? You think, I'm going to be a store owner. I've been a doctor, I've been an educator, professor in kind of a rural town, but you're dealing with kids from all over because they're on scholarship and traveling and teaching, and then there's 3 totally different careers here, right?
It's crazy, I know.
But also, you're fluent in Spanish,
right?
So that's got to help,
right? It was amazing
with everything.
Yes, it was amazing because I was able to, design furniture in Mexico, and we brought our team down there of designers, and then we would design together, and it just was something that I really didn't know I had a passion for, but I'm enamored with it.
Yeah,
I really am. I mean, it's something that came to me, kind of was put on my. It was like I was served this plate. Okay, now do something with it. And we did have some challenges because when I got here, 2004 was a good year, but 2005, the housing market crashed. And so, it was tough. There were tough times, and we had to find out, different markets, and we were both in wholesale and retail. And so we kind of shut down our wholesale division for a temporary time there and just went full force retail. And then we knew that the property on I-35 really wasn't the best location. And so we searched for another property and found the one on Reno where, that's Furniture Row. And we were amongst everybody searching for furniture. And we're different because we actually build furniture. We upholster, we custom design. So the client that comes in the door, they're coming into the door for a reason. They know we're a rustic furniture store, but what they don't know is we are contemporary. We are modern. We do have, a Santa Fe feel, but we can do all of it because we have on-site carpenters and upholsterers and finishers. So when you come in the door, you're met with this wonderful aroma of leather. And then you experience all the colors. You touch the buttery soft leathers, the cowhides, and then we laser engrave. And so that rancher or farmer or oil and gas man that come in the door, we can laser engrave their brand right on their custom office chair or an ottoman. So we bring our passion into their homes.
That's huge. Yeah, and you're right, that. That Furniture Row area. I mean, that's your Broadway. That's your Route 66. That is the spot that you need to be in.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And everyone, I think, people want. A lot of people, the majority of people, don't share the vision that yourself, people you're in business with, people are in furniture, kind of like architects, right? We don't share that vision, or interior designers. I don't know what that. I probably would find someone on Instagram, walk in and be like, I want my office to look exactly like this, right? But the good thing about you guys is you know, when you walk in, you're like, okay, I know what you're talking about. Let's do this. Customize it, whatever you want. And you have a team there to help people get to what they're at, you know? And that's the beauty of it. Because for me, coming in, I'm terrible at shopping. But if I see something I want, you know, I'm in and out straight away, right? But the worst thing for me is decision fatigue and coming in and thinking, I kind of know what I want, but also like there's a million options. But I'm sure you deal with that every day.
Right, and we take you through the process. I mean, you get to go to the upholstery shop. You get to search through cowhides. You custom pick your leather, your cowhide, your fabric, even the color of the wood, the nail head, a Killam rug if we're going to add that to an Old West chair. And besides that, we even reupholster. So if you want to bring in your grandmother's old bench or old rocking chair, we can reupholster it for you. And those pieces become legacy pieces then in your house and are there forever and ever.
Yeah, it's just like reselling a pair of boots.
There you go.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know that because we have 4 dining room chairs right now that need to be reupholstered.
There you go.
My mother-in-law is very skilled. I don't know, though, if she... We'll have to talk.
I love that.
I don't know if I might cause a small war in my house if I want, you know, this furniture, which probably doesn't go anywhere in my house, but it would look great in the corner in one photo.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's really cool to know. So that happens. You're kind of dealing with the housing market crash, right? And over 30 years of business, you've dealt with a lot of ups and downs, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
COVID was another one.
Yeah.
Yes. But you know what? We continued to work 7 days a week.
Okay.
All the employees worked on site. We were deemed essential because we sell mattresses, and people needed our furniture. If you're transforming your home now into your home office, your gym, the kids are at home, they need places to study. There was so much renovations going on inside and outside homes that we boomed. And we continue to boom, but we continue to manufacture. And that is the key point that kept us afloat. Many furniture stores have now folded. The supply chain was a big issue with them. And fortunately for us, it was not. Because we manufacture so much of our furnishings, and we had the supply of leathers and fabrics and nail heads, and you know, our employees were still on hand. Now, I will tell you, the traffic, of course, slowed down, but we worked on Facebook, Instagram, and print advertising. We're in Cowboys and Indians magazine, a monthly issue, as well as Western art and architecture. So those 2 things really helped us. And of course, the city of Oklahoma City was amazing for us. We worked with them on, you know, the SBA loans and programs that they were helping through economic development. And we were very fortunate to receive grants from the city of Oklahoma City as well.
Tell me then, so I love all that, and the city is great for SBA loans, and you're not the only one who said that on the podcast. Like, there's a lot of examples of that, and it's very helpful to get small businesses through COVID and everything like that. Tell me about social media and kind of going into that, because for me, like, that is my world, right? Like, I understand it. I understand the value of it. It is very hard from a business perspective to get the metrics for return on investment, right? You could say, hey, I got 50,000 followers on my page, but I don't know unless somebody tells me when they come into my store, I saw you on Instagram, I saw you on Facebook. So it's very hard to quantify that, right? So as you know, when someone comes to you and says, hey, will you market on our page or whatever it is, it's very tough to justify the time and the spend in social media because you're not getting people coming in every day saying, even though it's probably taken 6 or 7 of them scrolling hits to say, oh, wow, yeah, I'm going to go there. So how do you harness that? How do you see the value in social media? And then how did you double down during COVID into say, yeah, we're here, come see us?
One of the most important things I have to give a shout out to my sister, Mary, regarding social media. She does a great job of taking the viewer through the entire process, from the beginnings of the carpenter's hands creating an ottoman, for example, to the finisher putting on the legs of the ottoman, painting the parts that will be, shown, the wood part, and then of course through upholstery, the upholsterer putting on the foam, and then the cowhide or leather, and then finishing up with a nail head. So if you watch our Instagram or our Facebook pages, you'll see that process. And we are a hands-on bench crafted company. And I think through that, you see the process, but of course, if you come into the store, you really see the entire process because you can get that hands-on. You see it in person. You can smell the wonderful buttery leathers. The aromas are amazing, through the wood processing at of the upholstery, of the carpentry shop as well, because that's what we use. We use hard woods. Everything is well-made, quality products, and that's what we represent. And I think through those social mediums, you get the real taste of what LOREC Ranch does, and uniqueness. Every product is so unique.
Yeah, it adds value, right? Like it's. Then it's back to the point about you laser etching the logos in. Like I'm thinking about my chair that I will have at some point with my This Is Oklahoma logo in the back of it, and maybe some other logos as well. We'll see. But yeah, you're right. Like the storytelling element. A lot of people think that it takes a full film crew and they've got to do this, and it takes so much time in social media. But if you just go to the basics and say, hey, we're building an ottoman, we're building an office chair. This is how it starts, and take people through the process. There's so much value in that.
Yes, I agree.
Right? And they see the value and they see the time that goes into it, and they understand that it's a quality, customized product, not just, as much as I love IKEA, because of its ease, it's the total opposite, right?
Right.
I don't like putting it together. But, just... You're right. It's a custom piece. It means a lot, and especially if it's something that's going to go in an office that, as a kid, you remember your mum's office or your dad's office. Growing up now, like you said, with the COVID housing kind of situation that happened, a lot of people, I got to see a lot of it being in the real estate industry. A lot of people were either building onto their existing houses a gym, and second, an extra office because mum and dad were working and they both need to be working from home. Or like you said, the kids are now doing school from home. There was a lot of home renovations going on.
Absolutely.
So these kids growing up now are remembering, mom and dad had a home office. What was their office chair like? Like as a kid, you jump in your dad's office chair, your mom's office chair, and you're spinning around in it, right? And growing, 20 years from now, hopefully that chair, if they,
right.
They hopefully their parents have invested in a chair that they'll remember that.
Exactly. So part of that process after that, you see it on Facebook or Instagram, and let's say that client comes in now. And they say, hey, I saw this picture. I really want to make something like this, but I want to change, the fabric or the leather on it. So then we start the creation of that, the design of it. And that client, through text messages now, gets to see it on their phone. And that is amazing because, it's from the beginnings to the end, and then they come and pick it up and they are just enamored with it. Oh, I love my chair, and it's comfort as well. Besides the beauty that you see on the outside, we always want our furniture to be comfortable. We know that, families are going to be spending Christmas dinners and Thanksgiving dinners around a beautiful dining table made of reclaimed wood or with upholstered chairs. And that could even be an Axis deer hide, in a lodge, or it could be fabric made of Pendleton by Sombrella. So the beauty of the social media is it brings people in, and they educate themselves first before they walk in the door. They either go on our website, or they follow us, on social media, and they actually know what they want. And then we just help them through the process.
Yeah, definitely. So with the whole business then, when is there a point over the 30 years where, I'm sure we've had peaks and troughs and stuff, but is there a point in the 30 years that you're like, we're a thing now, we have taken off? Does that align with anything?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe when Cowboys and Indians magazine asked to do a story on us in February of 2022, I think that was one of the most pivotal moments of my life. And I was like, wow. We branded our company for so many years. And then to see the write-up, it was phenomenal. So I think when other people from afar, recognize you, and this business, since we don't have the clientele, the culture has changed, and we don't have that clientele coming into the store as much as we did in the past. What's happening now with LOREC Ranch is people are flying in from other locations, and that is amazing. And they also fly us to their locations. And so that was something I dreamt about. I really did. At the very beginnings of LOREC Ranch, I thought, wow, what would it be to design an entire ranch or an entire home in the mountains? And now we've done it. And so my dream, of course, never dies. It continues. I have more and more and more dreams. So my next dream is to actually have a ranch, a small ranch here in Oklahoma, and probably between here and Pawhuska. I'd love to have acreage and build, a barn dominium with some smaller houses on it so that we could, bring clientele there, have family retreats, whatever. I mean, I think it would be so much fun.
Mm-hmm. You're speaking my language.
I love it.
The condominium is just like, it's just the greatest. It seems like the greatest thing in the world, right? But also, you're right. Like somewhere perfect location between Oklahoma City and Pawhuska that you can fly people in, that they can kind of simulate what their ranch would look like. And you think, I'm thinking of like just Oklahoma sunrises and sunsets on the porch, right? And just stuff like that. But also, you get to show people basically a warehouse, right? You have multiple buildings out there in a warehouse of, or a showcase. It doesn't have to be a massive one, but, something that you can really show people what it looks like in real life. Because, it is hard to simulate in a store what this would look like in the front room.
Oh, absolutely. Our ceilings are super tall. And to bring that, to a home, ceiling height is very different. So there's a lot of things that we can do as far as designing, and people can see when you come and go through the LOREC Ranch experience, because we show you on site, what this would look like. Yeah. Put it around this table. And that way, you bring it down to your own roots.
Where was the first time somebody flew you out to their house to style? When was that, and where did you go? I
went to Palomino Petroleum in Newton, Kansas. Okay. And I was flown out there by the owners, Clay and Jennifer Watches. And so great people, amazing design. And we went out and worked on about 8 offices. And it was an experience of a lifetime. Just to be able to do some really bling office chairs. We did one that was very ranch style for a cattleman. We did another office chair that was designed, by the love of Texas. So they were all really, really, really different offices in under one setting. So an oil company
is a lot of how does your business kind of split up between oil field offices, ranch houses, lodges, and personal homes?
It's really interesting that you asked that, because the rancher, they may buy a lot of furniture that has the cowhide on it. And then Mountain Modern, for example, in Colorado lodges, they like the white Tibetan lamb. They like the muted colors of creams and grays. So we'll do more of a contemporary style up there. And then in Oklahoma, for example, a lot of the lake homes we do, those are maybe the one-of-a-kind pieces from the old haciendas using old woods from Mexico. But I think all of those, every piece of furniture in our store can go in any setting. And it's eye candy. It really is.
Yeah, and you're at a lodge, or you're at a home, or you're at an office, and it sets the tone, right? But also, if you're a client that is being welcomed into that home or welcomed into that office by the customer to close a deal or whatever it is,
right?
And they walk in and they've got not just like one nice chair, they've got 10, yes. Right? And the whole thing is like, these guys have an eye for detail.
Right.
It sets kind of a really good tone, and I'm sure it has helped close deals.
Right,
well.
And that brings me to a thought. The Cedar Gate in Kingfisher, we worked on their council room, their tribal council room, and they have about 20 LOREC Ranch office chairs, all in beautiful, different styles of cowhides, from brindles to spotted to, just black and white. I mean, amazing, very beautiful cowhide office chairs.
Yeah. So business is growing. You're doing all these good things. And when comes the time that you decide to open a new store? And where do you go first?
Right. So back in 2016, Ree Drummond reached out to us and asked us to make tables for her mercantile in Pawhuska. And so that's really the way we were able to, kind of find our niche in Pawhuska. So we made the beautiful tables out of reclaimed railroad car flooring. And these railroad cars were from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And the flooring of these railroad cars were beautiful oak woods. And so we started making tabletops with them, made them in round, rectangle, square, and reordered them from us. And it was amazing to just be up there in Pawhuska back in 2016 when the town was basically pretty void of any type of entrepreneurial spirit. Businesses were pretty void up there. There was just a few. And so we went up there over Christmas. She launched on Halloween in 2016. And then we went up with the family in 2016 at Christmas time. And I noticed a building that was vacant right next to hers. And I thought, I wonder if we could do something with this building. And called the real estate agent, actually the owner of the building. And Mary and I sat down with him and ended up signing the contract. And then I purchased the building later on in 2018. And so we've been up there, since 2016 and love it. We love Pawhuska. It's amazing to know, the movie Killers of the Flower Moon will be coming out soon. And a lot of our furnishings will be in that movie, which is what's fun. I can't wait to see it on the big screen. One of the major buffalo scenes we have is with our buffalo shoulder mount that is in one of the, I guess it's the pool scene where they're actually playing pool. And it'll be fun to watch. Really fun. It brought in tons of people to Pawhuska.
So, yeah, like you're up there. You obviously know Ree's brand is growing. In 2016, she's kind of a thing already. But like I said, they're her mercantile. She's just about to open. And you have this huge opportunity, and it's a huge risk, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially up there, it's just her, and yeah, it's her spot, but at the same time, you don't, it's hard kind of gambling or risking your whole move out there for the new store on one person, right?
Right.
And obviously it's paid off because, everyone knows where that is now. Everyone knows there's a hotel or a small boutique hotel. There's a lot of commerce going on. And then, like I said, you have the movie now that's up there that was filmed. And I'm sure it's fantastic to see the streets covered in mud and redoing everything. And tell me about that process.
Yes. Totally breathtaking. And I was able to work with one of the set directors because, they needed those furnishings from, we're talking back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And so it was so fun to work with them and to be able to be on the set. I was able to, walk down there with them, and they showed me, kind of, where they were going to put the items. But the town being transformed back to those days, was something that I got to experience. I felt like I was back in the 30s and 40s, just watching them, in their buggies and the horses and their clothing that they wore. And then the Osage Native American Indians are just wonderful people, so embracing, just learning their story. This was all new to me because I wasn't born and raised in Oklahoma. And so I really didn't know a lot about Oklahoma's history. And being there during that time and reading the book, of course, really, enlightened me. And just watching the movie set becoming a creation was phenomenal.
Yeah. Is all this going on at the kind of the same time as you get in the magazine?
No. This was
That's after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, this was after.
Got you.
Yes.
So, yeah, being, on a movie set, right? You're on the big stage,
Yeah.
but also it's in a town in Oklahoma that you probably know really well.
Right.
So you've got all these cool things happening, and it feels like people have come to you, and you're there, and who knows? It's hindsight to know, like, if you'd have been in it, if you hadn't had a stall there.
Right. I don't think
who
so.
knows?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm sure it's been great, to be involved in the city, involved in Pawhusker and the chamber, and just have a store there, and it's such a wonderful place, and it's paid off for you.
Exactly.
And I'm sure, there were conversations like, this is a huge risk for us. But it's one of it'll go down in history as one of the greatest decisions you've ever made.
It will. Yeah. An interesting part of that story is that back in 2019, my youngest daughter graduated from high school, and she has been working, for me for many, many, many years. And she came to a conclusion. She's like, Mom, you know what? I think we really need to go and look for accessories and a clothing line and a boutique style for the store in Pawhuska, because I know people are coming there from far away and they're not able to take furnishings with them. So why don't we kind of change? And so in 2019, we went to Dallas Market and we found boutique items, clothing lines and hats, and ended up designing moccasins, and she really truly launched that. And currently she's a student at OSU and studying fashion merchandising. And so it's amazing how your children, bring to the table, things that you don't see. And her love for Pawhuska store, the boutique, has now launched a boutique in my store in Oklahoma City, as well as a boutique in Amarillo. So our stores have, we sell clothing lines and a lot of Pendleton, Johnny Was, and Free People. We have a couple of lines of shoes as well, but all dedicated to the ranching and farming lives of these people that come to visit us.
Yeah, I'm sure it's awesome to have your daughter involved as a family business. I know obviously you and your sister are very involved, and you have been in business, as you said, with your sister before this, but having your daughter, especially from a young age, I mean, she's about to go to OSU, so it's not like she's graduated, she's looking for a job. It's a little different, when a child comes out of college and like, looking for a job now. Oh, I guess I'll work for family business. Like, clearly Danielle has a passion for this.
She does.
And going into it, and it's probably a big decision to go to school as well, right? She doesn't have to go to school,
right?
A lot of entrepreneurs, especially now, the things that she's learned, and it's cool for her to be like, I'm going to do 4 years of college and enjoy it and be a kid, right? And then get into, I guess, being a business owner after that.
That's so interesting, because the oldest, Alejandra, she graduated from DePaul in Chicago, and then went on to her master's degree at UNT in Denton. Luis graduated and played basketball at Oklahoma Christian, then went on to study his graduate studies at UNT. My son Tony graduated from OU, and actually he's doing a lot of my photography right now for LOREC Ranch, and then Danielle at OSU. So just the children, you see all the diversification in their lives as well. It's, they lived in Mexico and have cousins galore in Mexico. They, got to travel to Wisconsin, where I'm from, and then, of course, landed in Oklahoma. So it's a big cultural experiences throughout our lives. And we love to travel.
That's important. You have to do it.
Yes.
There's, like we said earlier, there's so much to learn from just going to the next state. Just get in the car and go. That's the beauty of this country. I love driving across this country. I have some trips coming up, and I just can't wait to jump in the car and go see. And I depending if you like driving or not, but you see much more when you drive. So I love to do that. But Luis, I was talking to Luis this morning, and he said, I said, we have an event coming up. I said, you coming? He's like, no, I'm actually going to be in Mexico for the next month.
I know. I love it. Yes.
Let's talk about your sister Mary, because Luis, your son, said you have to ask my mom about Aunt Mary, and just you've been in business for a long time, and specifically, I think he said been in business with the family ranch. Furniture ranch side of things, 10 plus years, I think.
Right. 2012, she started on with me. She actually launched this store in Oklahoma City in 97. She was here for just a short time, and then came back in 2012. So since 2012, we've really, we have a chemistry like no other. My mother calls us the twins she never had. We're 18 months apart. I'm the more strong, I guess, the strong force behind academics and athletics and getting the kids, you know, because she has six children and I have 4.
Oh, wow.
And so there's a lot of kids. So I'm kind of the upper hand there when it comes to, you know, just making sure that academics is in line, and athletics, if you're performing, you're performing, you're practicing. And then she's the comic relief. She's the fun aunt. She's the one that you meet and you're greeted by when you come into LOREC Ranch. A beautiful blonde. She has a personality like no other, and she knows how to connect with people. You know, she finds that common denominator, and they don't forget her. You know, and she's the one that's in constant contact with them. You know, like I said, if they purchased some pieces from us that are custom made, she sends you the text message of the process of, you know, when they're doing the upholstery project on it, or when they're sewing it up, when they're putting on the hand hammered nail heads, or when they're cutting the hand cut fringe. So you will never forget Mary. She's an amazing sister, an amazing, you know, friend to me, because, you know, during the highs and lows of business, it's tough. It's tough, but we have an amazing connection, amazing chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough enough being in business. It's tough enough added family into that too, right? Especially like you said, when you have, you know, you have 4 kids of your own, Mary's got 10, you know, plus all the employees feel like kids at the same time. Right. But yeah, it's great to have that bond and be work together. And I'm sure there are times you're like, I don't want to see you. I need 24 hours. You
know, I have never felt that way.
No, not yet.
Absolutely never felt that way. And I'm going to tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
So we have, you know, we have the family that lives in Wisconsin, all parts of kind of near Milwaukee. And so sometimes when we go up there, and if we're up there together, our sisters have to separate us. Like, we have this affinity for one another that we sit next to each other, no matter where we are. And it's not something we purposely do. It's just that we have this an amazing connection. Yeah. This amazing connection.
Yeah. That's special.
Yeah.
That is special.
It is.
Earlier on, you mentioned kind of like the cowboy way, and how that in business has kind of just been part of the business, and you've learned a lot. What are the lessons that you've learned from that, from moving to Alva, you know, to all the business stuff that you've done?
I think the most important part of that is work ethic. I think the American cowboy, the Old West, the American West, has something to say about integrity. The integrity of the cowboy, you know, who's working the land that we love, that we live off of. They're such hardworking people, and you know, when they come into our store, there's an amazing connection because they're so honest. And it's a wonderful, it's sometimes hard to get to know them, but we break that ice. It's the icebreaker. Somehow we get to know them, you know, and then when they leave as friends. So it's like I said, it's that cowboy way. It's that look in the eye. It's that handshake. It's the tip of the hat. There's so much culture. There's so much integrity. There's so much pride in being, you know, from the West and a cowboy. I love it. I love the cowboy way.
Yeah, it's and people, like, you know, there might somebody listening to this that hasn't been around it, just doesn't get it. But if you are fortunate enough to be around it or meet someone like that, there are a lot of very, very good life lessons from that.
Absolutely.
And there was a quote, I read a book recently, and it was like, just the simple way of life is sometimes the best way of life.
Oh,
I think I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that. And it just takes you back to, you know, like, what are you thankful for, right? You get up in the morning and, you know, yes, we've probably got our heads in our phones and we turn the TV on and, you know, staying away from the media and all that stuff. But, you know, what can you control? What are you happy about? And, just kind of integrity, honesty, and that way of
Oh
life.
my gosh, absolutely. And the women behind those men, because they're training the children to do the same thing, and they're making the meals, and they're working as well. I mean, those women, the cowgirls are phenomenal.
Yeah.
They work just as hard as the men. So a shout out to all of those cowgirls.
There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah, there are.
For sure. And I'm sure they make great models for you as well, right?
They
And
do.
your daughter's clothing line and all the other stuff too.
Yes.
Okay, 2 questions to finish up. What would you say is your greatest business achievement?
In October of last year, we held a clay shoot at the Cedar Gate for Toby Keith's Kids Corral. And I had a dream. The donations were all going to the Kids Corral, which is a facility right across the street from OU Medical Center for children who are suffering from cancer. And so this is where the family can stay at no cost. And we were able to actually furnish some of the furnishings in some of the bedrooms and in the kitchen and in the living spaces. But I held this clay shoot along with the Phoenix group at the Cedar Gate, and we raised over $200,000 for Toby Keith's Kids Corral. It was phenomenal. I thank my entire team for helping me out, to make this goal, an incredible dream come true. And we're holding another one. This will be an annual event at the Cedar Gate on October 20th, which is a Friday. And we are so excited, once again, partner with the Kids Corral and hopefully beat our goal.
Yes. That's fantastic to be able to give back.
Oh my gosh.
In your own setting too.
Yes. And, I wasn't expecting Toby or Trish to come to the event. Lots of prayers and to him for his recovery from cancer. And he was out there. And it was just such a special moment, to see him come and, get out of the truck and greet everybody that was there, and actually bring a family whose child was suffering from cancer, and the family stayed at the corral. But emotions, just amazing emotions.
Yeah.
And giving back is a wonderful feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. It definitely is. The other thing that we haven't talked about, which we really need to, because of the travel that you've done and the places that you've been, the food there is fantastic. Now, I love food. So tell me about, do you have a kind of recipe? Do you miss anything from being in Mexico? Like if you're going to cook a dish, what is it? How has your travels impacted your love of food?
Right. I think probably flan is what I make the most, and I love the most of the Mexican culture, as well as salsas. So just making those homemade salsas are wow. You can make them with so many, and grilling them. Actually, grilling the serranos or the jalapenos on the grill, and with the tomato and the garlic, and then putting it in the blender, and just the flavors. The flavors are amazing. I was able to take a trip to Europe with my children. So all of my children now, and that was a major accomplishment as a mother, to get them all to travel to Europe. So my son, Tony, who graduated from OU, during COVID, he was supposed to study in Spain and in Italy. And unfortunately, COVID shut it down, and he graduated and thus wasn't able to go. So I promised him at graduation day, I promise I will take you to Europe. Okay, so last year in May, there was 9 of us that traveled to Europe. And of course, I didn't travel to Spain where I had lived, but just remembering all those Italian dishes that we had tried, and we went to Paris as well, and the Parisian food and the streets, and just the love of the culture there. I mean, I love cooking. I absolutely love cooking. And I think I bring a little taste of everything to because I'm German and Irish. And so I bring that flavor to our Christmas dinners and our Easter dinner and Thanksgiving. And then every time we have a birthday party, it's a family dinner. So I love it. I love food. I love cooking.
That's awesome. I love that. I'm going to have to get invited to one of these.
Okay, you're a guest. Invitation has now been.
That's brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of spicy food because in the UK we don't have spicy food unless it's Indian food, and I'm just not a huge fan of spicy food at all. However, the UK does Indian food, like Indian takeout food, like no other.
Wow.
The other thing that Louise said I had to talk to you about was your little Yorkie.
Oh, Bentley. So unfortunately, during COVID, we had our dog Teddy, who was a beautiful chocolate lab that we have really bought in 2004 when we moved to Edmond from Alva.
Yeah.
And so Teddy was about 15 years old. So all four of my children went down to Gainesville, Texas, and brought me back a Yorkie.
Oh.
And he's my Bentley. He's Mr. B. Believe me, he walks with me every morning, about 45-minute walk, and then we played catch, and he loves it. Yeah, he's my buddy.
Pets are the best.
Yes, he is.
Dogs are the best, I should say. I'm a dog person,
yes,
never a cat person.
Love my Mr. B.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming in, spending an hour and sharing some great stories.
Oh, thank you,
It's
Mike.
been fantastic. For people listening, I will put a link to your Instagram and website in the description. If you're on Instagram looking right now while you're scrolling, it's LOREC Ranch on Instagram. And then we have, and last week of September, we have your 30th anniversary sale coming up.
Yes.
Which is huge. Is that across all 3 stores?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's coming up. And then October 20th, then you've got the fundraiser as well.
Absolutely, for Toby Keith.
So,
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Those couple events coming up. If you're in Port Husker, Amarillo, or in Oklahoma City, pop in. And you get yourself a custom, or start the process of getting yourself a custom office chair or dining chair or whatever it is that you would like for your house. So, for people listening, thank you so much. Dr. Kari, thank you so much for coming in, and we'll catch you next episode.
Thanks, Mike.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us on August 11th at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for a celebration of hope featuring guest speaker Tim Tebow and musical artist Ben Fuller. Find out more and get your tickets at HIA10.com. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's beef farmers and ranchers, we want to remind you that beef can be part of a heart-healthy diet. To find heart-healthy beef recipes, go to oklabeef.org/recipes. Link below.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.